and welcome back to the Advanced English podcast by I Speak English. I'm Hayley, and today we're looking into a topic that pretty much everyone on the planet has an opinion on, whether they understand it or not, and that topic is artificial intelligence. Now, before we get stuck in, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, give this episode a quick like if you learned something new, and don't forget that you can download the full transcript and the vocabulary list in the description. And if you want to take your English to the next level and practice some speaking with me, you can head over to www.englishclassesonline.co.uk and you can find all of my lessons and services there. Right, so AI, let's go then. So here's the thing about artificial intelligence. People talk about it as if it's something brand new, like it's this brand new sci-fi invention that suddenly dropped out of the sky a few years ago, but it's actually been around for decades. And we've only just noticed it because it's finally started doing things. Like we used to confidently say, oh, don't worry, a machine could never do that. Famous last words. In the past, AI was just this background thing, like it was sorting your emails, recommending Netflix shows, predicting the weather badly, whatever it might be. But now it's writing essays, it's generating art, it's composing music, translating languages, diagnosing illnesses, writing code, even flirting with people online. Yes, flirting with people, we'll get to that later. But the reason everyone's suddenly talking about AI is because it's crossed this invisible line between useful tool and hang on, is this thing going to replace me? And honestly, that's a fair question. For some people, AI is the best thing since sliced bread, a kind of super-powered little helper that can speed things up, help you study, give you new opportunities, and save you a ridiculous amount of time. And for other people, it just kind of feels like this runaway train that no one's actually driving. Like a technology that's developing way faster than the rules and the ethics, or even our ability to understand what it's doing. And for a lot of people, it's both. It's exciting and it's terrifying. It's useful and it's unsettling. It's a dream, it's a total nightmare. It depends who you ask, which generation you're from, and how much of your job involves sitting at a computer and clicking things, really. But whether you love it or hate it, or you feel completely overwhelmed by it, one thing is absolutely crystal clear. AI is not going away. And pretending it will just makes us look silly. That's why today's episode is going to dig into what AI means for learning and studying, jobs and automation, creativity, and whether AI is killing it. What it means for teenagers, and some pretty serious risks as well. Courtrooms, the idea that robots are interpreting the law, mental health, relationships, power, bias, inequality, and ultimately what AI says about us. But first, before we get to the juicy stuff, we need to talk about our weird relationship with technology in general, because AI didn't just come out of nowhere. We've been training ourselves for this moment without even realizing. We humans have this strange habit of inventing things that make our lives easier, and then panicking when those same things become useful enough to actually change how we live. We did it with electricity, we did it with cars, we did it with the internet, we even did it with calculators. People genuinely used to say they destroyed children's ability to do maths, and now we're doing it again with AI. There's this constant push and pull between excitement and fear. We love technology when it saves us time or makes us look clever, but the moment it gets too smart, we suddenly start going, hang on, is that normal? Should it be doing that? Should I be worried? Is it going to take over the world? Should I unplug it? Can I unplug it? Oh god, where is the off button? We panic because AI feels different. It doesn't just do tasks, it mimics thinking, or at least it looks like it does. We're not used to computers behaving like humans, and honestly, we're not very good at handling it. Because the second something sounds human, we treat it like it's a human. Even when we know deep down it's just, patterns and probabilities and algorithms. Teenagers especially are incredibly vulnerable to this, but I'll save that for its own section later on. The point is, we've always had a complicated relationship with technology. We love the convenience, but we fear the consequences. And AI is basically the ultimate test of that contradiction. Which brings us to our next part, which is the subtle way that AI has already slipped into our daily lives without asking permission. You might think you're not an AI person, but trust me, you're using it every single day. So here's the funny thing about AI. People say, oh, I don't use it. That stuff's not for me. And meanwhile, their phone is basically a tiny robot quietly running their entire life in the background. AI is everywhere. It's in your fridge, it's in your emails, your car, your bank, your music, your social media feed, your shopping habits, your news, your camera, your maps, even your dating life. But we don't see it because it doesn't announce itself. It just gets on with it quietly like a little digital butler that never sleeps. But trust me, AI already knows more about you than your best friend does. Take your phone, for example. You open Google Maps, that's AI predicting traffic patterns, rerouting your car, calculating the best route. You scroll in TikTok, that's AI building a psychological profile of you in about 3 seconds. You shop on Amazon, AI is not only showing you what it thinks you'll buy, but it's predicting future purchases before you've even decided. Do you use Spotify? AI is following your mood more closely than your own mother is. You don't even need to interact with it directly. Simply existing with a smartphone means you're being analysed, categorised, sorted, and optimised by algorithms every day. And the scary thing is we hardly even think about it. Even something as basic as autocorrect, that's AI. Spam filters, AI. Your phone unlocking when it sees your face, AI. We think of AI as the futuristic robot, like the glowing eyes or something, when really it's just the thing that's like correcting your typos at 1 a.m. But here's the interesting part. We're more scared of visible AI, like chatbots, humanoids, robots, than the invisible stuff that's actually shaping our behaviour. People panic about ChatGPT writing essays, but not about the fact that Instagram's AI probably knows your insecurities better than you do. We treat the obvious AI as dangerous and the hidden AI as harmless, when realistically, it should be the other way around. And this leads us perfectly into the next section, because while AI has quietly made itself at home in our lives, it's also completely transformed how we study and how we learn and how we think. So let's talk about the bit that actually matters then, how to use AI to study without turning into a goldfish with like 2-second attention span. So AI is incredible for learning, truly. Like I use it myself to learn languages. It can really help you learn faster, learn deeper. You can personalize how you want to learn, which is what I love about it. And it can explain like in 5 different levels of difficulty, and it can give you instant feedback as well. I've actually got a few videos on this. I'll link them now up in the top right corner of the screen. A few videos there to help you with your C1 exam and just learning English in general with it. But aside from this, if you use it wrong, if you use AI wrong, it's basically like academic cheating dressed up as productivity. So let's break it down. So you can use AI like a teacher to explain things that your textbook has missed out or that it just can't explain to you properly. So you can ask it like, explain this like I'm 5, or explain this like I'm a university student. Give me real life examples. Give me exam style questions about X topic. If you try asking a teacher to instantly produce like 40 personalized exercises, they'll probably faint or at least go for a lie down. AI will do it in 5 seconds. So it's really good for stuff like that. You can use it as a study partner, so it can quiz you, it can challenge you, correct your grammar and your vocabulary. It can even pretend to be an examiner. For language learning, it's absolutely priceless. But if you simply ask AI to do the work for you, your brain just kind of switches off. It's like outsourcing your gym workout to someone else and expecting your muscles to suddenly grow. Like, you improve when you engage, not when you copy and paste. So you need to use it correctly. Again, it can correct your writing instantly, but if you don't read the explanation, if you don't understand why something's wrong, and if you just click fix it, then you're not really learning, you're just cleaning up a mess. And then there's the biggest danger. AI can make you feel smarter than you actually are. So some students might say, oh yeah, I know this topic. AI explained it to me yesterday. And then they sit an exam and completely fall apart because understanding something is not the same as being able to do it on your own. AI gives you the illusion of mastery. Your brain gets like the dopamine hit without doing the heavy lifting. That's why the key is you need to use AI to support your thinking, not replace it. If you ever catch yourself thinking, oh, just let AI do it, that's the moment you need to take a step back, because AI should be the helper, not the driver. Otherwise, your brain is going to atrophy faster than, your plant on the windowsill that you forgot to water for 2 weeks. And speaking of people whose brains are currently at risk of going a bit soggy, let's get into teens and AI, because honestly, this section's a bit, scary. It scares me more than the job loss debate, which we'll get into in a second. But we do need to have a proper, kind of honest conversation about AI and teenagers, because this is the bit that, it genuinely keeps me up at night. Adults worry about AI taking their jobs. Teenagers, on the other hand, are quietly handing over their entire identity to it without even realizing. And the thing that makes it dangerous is that teens are the biggest users of AI, and they're the least aware of its consequences. So let's break it down, not in like a Black Mirror kind of way, but in a realistic, grounded way. Let's take AI filters, for example. So AI-generated beauty standards, face tuning, body reshaping, skin smoothing, it's everywhere. And there's a really scary bit of research done. It was a study by Dove. Dove did the self-esteem project. And it found that 80% of teenage girls have already used an AI or filter to change the way they look online. And not even to look better, either to look normal, in quotation marks. That is terrifying. Teenagers today aren't comparing themselves to real humans. They're comparing themselves to polished avatars and AI-enhanced images and algorithmically perfected faces. How are you supposed to compete with something that isn't real? And here's the kicker. AI has made insecurity scalable. Before AI, you compared yourself to 3 or 4 pretty girls in school. Now, you're comparing yourself to millions of AI-enhanced faces every time you open your phone. And your brain doesn't go, oh, that's an AI-enhanced image. Your brain goes, I'm not good enough. So it's teaching teens how to think in a negative way. AI gives quick answers, it gives perfect summaries, it gives perfect paragraphs, it solves problems instantly, but teenagers' brains are still developing, especially the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for critical thinking and decision-making and impulse control. And if teens never struggle, they never problem solve or make mistakes or never wrestle with ideas, their brains simply don't develop in the same way. There's already research showing that teens who rely heavily on AI tools show reduced cognitive effort, meaning they literally think less. Not because they're lazy, but because AI removes the need to think. And once your brain learns it can outsource difficulty, good luck switching it back on again. Another really scary thing that teens are using AI for is chatbots. They're talking to chatbots and using them as therapists, as friends, as emotional support systems. In some ways, it can be great. It's not, the AI doesn't judge you. It listens to you. It replies instantly to you. It never gets tired. It can even adapt to your personality. But it's giving you emotional support without the emotional accountability. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't tell you when you're wrong. It doesn't set boundaries. It doesn't even say, oh, you're being traumatic. It mirrors the user, which means teens can end up in this digital echo chamber where everything they feel is amplified, not balanced. And that's incredibly dangerous for identity development. And then on top of that, teens are dealing with a massive amount of misinformation because they get most of their news from TikTok and Instagram. And guess what? AI-generated misinformation spreads 6 times faster than real news. And teenagers aren't trained to spot the difference between a real video and an AI-fabricated video or a deep fake. There's actually a study from the Center of Countering Digital Hate that found 60% of teens couldn't spot an AI-generated deepfake even when they were told one of the videos was fake. And the problem isn't just believing lies, it's losing the ability to trust anything. When teens can't tell what's real anymore, they stop trying to learn what's real, and that's how critical thinking collapses. So if you're a parent, a teacher, or honestly just a human being in the world right now, this is something you really have to think about. Let me know what you think about it in the comments, actually. Do you think that teenagers should be taught how to use AI in school? Like, use it safely? Like, about critical thinking or spotting deepfakes? What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Right, so we're done with teens. Let's move on to something a bit broader now. So there's quite a big question I think a lot of adults are asking themselves now, kind of something that's in the back of their mind while they're using AI, and that is AI going to steal my job? Like, we all joke about it. You know, it's like, oh, well, AI will replace me in a few years. But deep down, people aren't actually laughing, because the first time in human history, we've invented a tool that isn't just faster or cheaper, but it's more intelligent, and that changes everything. Like, you know, you've heard politicians and like tech CEOs saying, oh, AI won't replace humans, it'll just replace tasks. And sure, that's technically true. AI doesn't replace whole jobs, at least not immediately. But what it does is eat away at them like termites, like a bit of writing here, a bit of admin there, email scheduling, research, brainstorming, data entry, all the fiddly little things that used to justify a full-time salary get chipped away at one by one. And before you know it, a job that used to require 3 people suddenly needs 1. Not because the job disappeared, but because the amount of human work needed shrank. And companies aren't stupid. If they can save money, they will. And then there's another uncomfortable truth as well. Middle-class jobs are at most risk. So people assume AI's come in for like low-skilled workers first, factory staff, retail assistants, drivers. But no, AI struggles with physical, unpredictable, real-world tasks. Try getting a robot to unload a delivery truck in the rain. Good luck. The jobs AI threatens most are the ones that were considered safe for decades. You know, accountants, analysts, translators, copywriters, programmers, legal assistants, consultants, the kind of knowledge workers, let's say. People whose jobs exist mainly inside a screen. AI lives inside the same space and it doesn't get tired, it doesn't get emotional or distracted or sick. If your job is 80% thinking and typing, AI is already inside your workplace. And that's why the anxiety feels different this time round. But here's the plot twist. AI might steal your job, but it might also give you a better one. So it isn't all doom and gloom, honestly. AI is brilliant at the boring bits, the admin, the repetition, the grunt work, the busy work that nobody enjoys. And if you use it right, it can actually elevate you. Like, I'll use myself as an example. Like, planning lessons takes me, 10% of the time it used to, you know, making like vocabulary lists, creating grammar exercises for my students, like all this stuff that used to take me hours, literally takes me 10 minutes now. I've spoken to translators who say that AI helps them get more work, not less, because they can produce higher quality results faster. Designers who use AI to get inspiration instead of like staring at a blank canvas if they've got, you know, a block. Small business owners as well, it's great for them. You know, they spend hours writing an email sequence, now they can do it in 15 minutes. So AI isn't just replacing jobs, it's reshaping what the human part of work actually is. So the more AI does the mechanical part, the more humans can lean into the creative part, the empathy part, the decision-making part, you know, the kind of nuance, the personality, the stuff AI doesn't have. Or at least for now, it doesn't have. But let's be honest, the people who refuse to adapt to AI are going to struggle. We've seen this pattern in history. People didn't lose their jobs to machines. They lost their jobs to people who knew how to use the machines. Same thing here. AI won't replace teachers. But teachers who use AI will replace teachers who don't. AI won't replace translators, marketers, lawyers, researchers, engineers, but someone who uses AI fluently and creatively, yeah, they're a threat. And that's the shift I don't think people are talking about. It's not AI versus humans, it's humans with AI versus humans without AI. One group becomes supercharged and the other becomes irrelevant, maybe. And that sounds dramatic, but think about it. Imagine 2 employees. One spends 5 hours writing a proposal. The other spends 1 hour writing a proposal because AI helped with the structure and research and the copy. Who do you think the company is going to hire? AI isn't the competition. People who've embraced AI are the competition. But there's also an emotional truth behind all of this. The fear isn't about losing jobs. The fear is about losing purpose. Jobs aren't just jobs. They're part of your identity, part of your daily routine. They give you pride and structure, social connections. They give you a reason to get out of bed. And if AI takes away the parts of work that make people feel valuable, what are you left with? Has anyone ever dreamt of being a human oversight? Has anyone ever said that as a kid? I want to grow up and supervise automation. Of course not. It doesn't sound meaningful. People want to feel like their work matters, and AI threatens that, not just their paycheck. And here's where I really want to hear from you. Do you think that AI will create more meaningful work, or are you worried that it will steal your job? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to read what you think about this stuff, because everyone has a different take about it. Right, let's shift to a different angle now. Let's talk about AI and creativity. So the one thing that humans are supposed to have a lock on forever. For years, people said, well, sure, AI can crunch numbers, but it'll never be creative. And then seemingly overnight, it's writing songs, it's painting portraits, it's designing logos, it's inventing voices, it's stitching together films that almost look real. And I think that's why this topic hits a nerve, because when AI beats humans at maths, nobody panics. But when it starts beating humans at self-expression, people suddenly feel the ground wobble a little bit. Because creativity isn't just a skill. Again, it's part of your identity, it's personal. It feels sacred. Or at least it did. Take AI music, for example. The first time I heard an AI-generated song, I genuinely thought it was leaked from a studio or something. Like the tone, the cadence of it, it was all there, but the strangest thing was it didn't really mean anything. It was kind of lacking soul, like it did feel hollow. Some producers love this stuff, again, it's like having this infinite playground. Others absolutely hate it, they feel like it's cheating or it's plagiarism. And honestly, I get both sides. When you're stuck for ideas, AI feels like magic. Like it nudges you a little, it might spark something, give you a little jolt of inspiration. But there's also this nagging question at the back of your mind. If the machine can make something this good, what exactly is my role here? And that doesn't go away easily. And in film, things get even weirder. You've got AI de-aging actors, cloning their voices, generating scenes, even recreating actors who've passed away. The technology is unbelievable. It's also raising ethical questions we've never dealt with before. If AI can recreate an actor at any age, does the actor own their face? Or their voice? Or their entire digital self? I think there's already been a few court cases about this, actually, where actors are demanding rights to their own likeness because studios suddenly realise they can just copy them. And this is where the debate gets a bit messy, because on one hand, AI lets filmmakers do things that were impossible before. But on the other, it risks turning human beings into just reusable assets. Again, the fear isn't just about jobs, it's about autonomy. About the idea that your creativity could be harvested in some way or reassembled and sold back to the world without you even touching it. It's a wild time to be alive, really. So is AI creative then? Or is it just remixing the past? This is a question that keeps coming up in every creative industry. Some people argue that AI isn't creative at all. Like it doesn't feel, it doesn't suffer, it doesn't experience the world, so how could it possibly create something meaningful? But others say creativity is just pattern recognition, and machines do that far better than we do, so who's right? Personally, I think that AI can produce things that look creative, even sometimes stunning, but it can't generate the lived experience behind them. Again, it all feels a bit hollow and a bit superficial. Like, it can write a heartbreak song, but it can't know heartbreak. It can write a script about grief, but it doesn't know what it means to lose someone. That's the missing piece, like the soul part, the human part, for now, anyway. Because, as we all know, technology has a habit of catching up with us. So. We'll see what happens in the future. But for me, the real danger is not that AI creates, but that humans stop trying to create. This is the bigger threat for me. So not that AI outdoes human creativity, but that people start believing they don't need to make things anymore. Like, okay, why learn the piano if I can just ask AI to play something in your style? Why sketch and compose and write and rewrite and struggle and fail and improve and all those painful, beautiful parts of creativity when AI can produce something good enough in seconds? It's not just work AI might replace, its identity and the joy of mastery and like the pride in the process as well. And if we let AI do all the creating, we lose the very experience that makes creativity meaningful, and that's worth thinking about. Again, let me know what you think. Do you think AI inspires creativity, or does it feel like it kind of steals the spotlight? Let me know in the comments. Right, next we're moving into something a lot of people underestimate, and that's AI and mental health. So one thing we really need to talk about is the impact AI is having on our mental health. Not society in general, not teens specifically, but all of us. Right now, living through this bizarre moment in history where technology is developing faster than our ability to emotionally process it. Because the truth is, AI isn't just a tool that we use, it's a tool that subtly changes how we feel about ourselves and our achievements and even the future. And most of the time we don't even know it's happening. So let's start with this creeping fear that I think a lot of us have at the moment, and that's, am I keeping up? Every week there's a new model, a new feature, a new app that supposedly replaces some human skill that we've spent years developing. You go to bed feeling competent and you wake up feeling obsolete. Even if your job is safe, you can still feel that pressure, this idea that everyone else is using AI to get ahead and to work faster, to earn more, and you're just there still typing with two hands, like it's 2014. It creates this low-level background anxiety, a kind of constant buzzing in your brain that makes you feel you should always be doing more and learning more and improving more, and you never switch off, because switching off feels like falling behind, and that is absolutely terrible for our mental health. And then there's another layer. AI doesn't get tired, and it doesn't procrastinate, and it doesn't lose motivation or need a day off. So we start comparing ourselves to something that literally cannot fail. It's the same trap people fell into with social media, like comparing their, messy, chaotic lives to someone else's polished highlight reel. Except now it's not another person, it's a machine that can rewrite an essay in 3 seconds and can draw flawless art and can produce videos without even needing a coffee break. How do you measure up to something like that? It plants this idea that anything less than perfect is not good enough, so people rewrite emails 10 times. They panic before they send messages. They feel embarrassed by their own writing or creativity because they're comparing it to an algorithm, and honestly, it's not a fair fight. But AI is unbelievably convenient. And that's the hook, that's the danger. You ask it a question, it answers. You need help writing something, it does it instantly. If you're stuck, you're overwhelmed, it solves the problem for you. And before you know it, you stop trusting your own ability. You stop trying first and you go straight to the shortcut. It feels helpful, but it will slowly chip away at your confidence because you start thinking, well, why struggle when AI can do it better? And then, can I even do this on my own anymore? And then eventually, well, what if I've actually lost my skills completely? That's not laziness, that's a psychological shift. Convenience becomes dependency, and dependency turns into self-doubt. And then there's another side to it that often people don't like to admit as well. And that's that AI is starting to replace certain kinds of emotional interaction as well. Not relationships, not friendships, but those tiny moments of connection, of asking someone for help, sharing frustration, talking it through. AI makes that unnecessary. Why ask a colleague if you can just ask a bot? Why admit confusion to a friend when you can just get a perfect explanation instantly? Slowly, without meaning to, we remove people from our problem-solving process. We isolate ourselves under the illusion of efficiency. We get the answer, but we lose the human part of the experience. And loneliness? That's one of the biggest mental health issues of modern life, and AI can't fix that. In some ways, it makes it worse. And then there's the even deeper, more philosophical thing of what does this mean for humanity? AI brings up questions we're not used to confronting. Like, if a machine can create art, then what does creativity mean? If a machine can learn, then what does intelligence mean? If a machine can simulate emotions, what does feeling mean? If a machine can think, then what does being human mean? It's unsettling. And it triggers that weird existential feeling like the ground shifting under your feet. Some people love the excitement of that, others find it overwhelming or even depressing. Both reactions are valid, because we are the first generation in history to face these questions not as science fiction, but as real life. AI isn't just affecting the economy or creativity or education, it's quietly reshaping our emotional landscape, how we relate to others, how we see ourselves, how we judge our abilities, how we cope with uncertainty. And honestly, we're not prepared. Like, we don't have strategies for this, we don't have role models for this, we don't even have the language for it yet. That's why these conversations matter. And again, I genuinely love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Alright, we're going to move on to something else we really need to talk about when it comes to AI, and honestly, it doesn't get anywhere near the attention it deserves, and that is inequality. Because for all the hype about AI for everyone, the reality is that AI is not impacting everyone equally, not even close. In fact, it's widening the gap between people who already have advantages and people who don't. Think about it for a second. Who actually gets the most out of AI right now? It's the people with good internet, good education, good tech, and time to learn how to use it. If you're already middle class or working in some kind of digital field, AI feels like this magic little assistant that helps, speed up everything, it levels you up, it cuts corners, and it polishes your projects, and it boosts your efficiency, whatever you want to call it. It's like you've suddenly got a team of interns working for you 24/7. But if you're in a lower paid job or a job that's mostly physical, and you're working long hours just to stay afloat, AI doesn't give you the time back. It doesn't lighten the workload, it doesn't reduce stress. In fact, it might be the thing that makes your job less secure. And that's where the class divide creeps in, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. Like a leak in the ceiling you don't notice until the plaster's already sagging. Because while some people are using AI to fast track their careers or automate the boring bits, whole other groups have been pushed out of jobs entirely. It's happening already in admin work, in customer service, basic design, content moderation, even parts of healthcare and law. And it's not that AI is replacing the whole job, it's replacing just enough of it that companies can justify hiring fewer people. And here's the really uncomfortable truth. The workers most at risk are the ones who already have the least job security. The people living month to month, and the ones who can't just retrain because retraining costs money and time, two things they don't have. And then there's another element here that people ignore, which is data. AI runs on data, mountains of it, scraped from ordinary people's work, conversations, voices, writing, artwork, everything. And none of those people are getting paid for it. Like, that's insane. The very people whose work built the AI models are the ones who can least afford the consequences. It's the biggest unpaid labour force in history, and hardly anyone realises they're part of it. And that leads to another question. Who actually owns AI? Because make no mistake, it's not public, it's not the governments, it's not the artists, it's big tech. A tiny handful of companies, mostly in the US and China, control the future of this thing we're supposed to rely on. And when power concentrates like that, inequality only grows. It's like the digital version of the Industrial Revolution. The machines have arrived, and the people who own the machines get rich, very rich. Everyone else, they adapt or they suffer. And we're seeing the same pattern now, but instead of factories, it's algorithms. Instead of steam engines, it's AI models that cost billions to train. And the people who can tap into them early, developers, entrepreneurs, people with specialized skills, they're flying, they're raking in. But if your job doesn't intersect with AI, if you're not tech savvy, or if you're struggling, AI might just make the hill you have to climb even steeper. Like, let me ask you something genuinely. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think AI will level the playing field, or do you think it'll make the divide worse? Because right now, it feels like a bit of both. really. You've got stories of single mums using AI to start businesses, or students using it to learn languages for free, which is brilliant. But then you've also got entire industries quietly cutting entry-level jobs, the very jobs young people depend on to get their foot in the door. So is AI democratizing opportunity or quietly pulling the ladder up behind it? And the thing is, there isn't a simple answer. It depends who builds the tools, who controls the tools, and who gets access to them. But if we're not paying attention right now, we'll wake up in 10 years and realize the gulf between the digital haves and have-nots has become impossible to bridge. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about something that sounds like the plot of a slightly dodgy sci-fi film, but is already happening in real life, and that is AI in courtrooms. And honestly, this one makes people very nervous, and for good reason. Because the moment you bring AI anywhere near the justice system, you're messing with something incredibly fragile, and that's fairness. Now, a lot of countries are experimenting with AI in their legal systems quietly, cautiously, and usually wrapped in about 400 layers of pilot study and trial phase so nobody panics. In the UK, for example, AI is already being used to analyse evidence and predict case outcomes and summarise legal documents. On paper, that sounds great. Faster cases, fewer backlogs, fewer innocent people stuck waiting for months in remand because the system moves at the speed of a snail. And to be fair, AI can help. It can go through thousands of pages of evidence in seconds, something that would take a human barrister several lifetimes and probably a mild mental breakdown. It can spot patterns nobody else would notice. It can cross-reference old cases instantly. It can reduce human error. But here's the bit that keeps legal experts up at night. AI doesn't actually understand justice. It predicts it. That's all. It doesn't grasp context. It doesn't understand trauma or nuance or cultural background or coercion, poverty, fear, intimidation, or just the messy emotional reality of human behaviour. It just crunches numbers and spits out probabilities. That's not justice. That's maths dressed up as morality. And one of the most worrying examples comes from the US, where predictive sentencing algorithms have been used to estimate how likely someone is to reoffend. These systems were meant to help judges decide bail and sentencing. Sounds efficient, right? Except there's one massive problem. They turned out to be biased. Very biased. Studies found that black defendants were more likely to be labelled high risk than white defendants with identical records. The system wasn't being racist intentionally, it was trained on historical data from a system that was already racist. You put garbage in, you get garbage out. And that's the core issue. AI only reflects the world it's built on, and the world is not fair. Even in the UK, where we like to think that everything's a bit more dignified, the Ministry of Justice has already had to slow down certain AI projects because of concerns about bias and privacy and the possibility that the public might not accept a future where a judge says, well, the algorithm says you're guilty, so good luck. Imagine your freedom coming down to a piece of software trained on all police databases, half of which might be skewed, outdated, or just missing crucial context. It's terrifying. And another big issue is accountability. If an AI tool gives wrong information, who's responsible? The judge, the developer, the government, the algorithm itself? You can't put a computer on trial. You can't cross-examine a neural network. You can't ask ChatGPT, well, where exactly did you get this evidence? Because it'll just say something vague, like based on my training data, which is not going to hold up very well in a courtroom. And then there's privacy, a huge one. AI systems need vast amounts of data, but legal data includes things like medical records, mental health reports, private messages, confidential interviews, financial statements, and just generally details that people wouldn't want anywhere near a tech company. If any of that gets leaked or misused or fed into a model later, it's not pretty. And another thing people don't consider is transparency. Most advanced AI systems are black boxes, meaning no one actually knows exactly how they arrive at a decision. Even the engineers who build them can't fully explain why the model made that prediction at that moment. And that's fine if we're recommending a Netflix show, but it's not fine if someone's facing 10 years in prison. But here's the twist, some judges actually do like AI tools. Not because they replace judges, but because they can support them. Spell checking through thousands of pages of evidence, spotting contradictions, highlighting missing details, flagging legal precedents, basically doing the legal equivalent of washing the dishes so the judge doesn't have to. And if AI stays in that lane as a helper, not a decision maker, it could genuinely make the justice system fairer, faster and more consistent, and less emotionally volatile, because judges are human, they have bad days, they get tired, they can be influenced. AI doesn't get moody because someone cut it off in traffic this morning. So the real question isn't should AI be banned from courts, it's where exactly is the line between support and control. Because once an AI recommendation becomes something a judge relies on or feels pressure to follow, the balance of power quietly shifts and you might not even notice it until it's too late. So I briefly touched on bias there. Now we're going to take an even deeper look into algorithm bias. It might open a can of worms here, but AI is not neutral. It's not even close. People love to imagine AI as this like cold, rational, perfectly objective machine, like a sort of, digital referee making decisions with no emotion or no prejudice. But the truth is AI reflects the data it's trained on, and data comes from us, our history, our choices, our systems, and yes, our biases. And when people say the algorithm decided, it sounds like some futuristic form of justice. But often the algorithm's just repeating the same old prejudices, only now they're hidden inside something we can't see or question. But let's put it bluntly. If you feed a machine centuries of human behaviour, it's going to learn some of humanity's worst habits. And the scary bit is, because it's a machine, people often trust it more. We've already seen cases where AI misidentifies people with darker skin far more often than white people. Or systems that decide who gets a loan, who gets a job interview, even who gets flagged as high risk by police, all based on patterns that reflect inequality rather than reality. And when things go wrong, no one knows who to blame. It all becomes this weird fog of responsibility where everyone shrugs and says, well, that's just what the model predicted. But predictions aren't neutral either, they're shaped by the past, and the past isn't always fair. One of the big problems is that AI systems are trained on enormous data sets scraped from the internet that contains stereotypes, misinformation, discrimination, and absolute nonsense. So when a model starts making decisions about people's lives, it's pulling from all of that, and unless someone actively checks it, and let's be honest, most companies don't, the bias just gets baked in. What really worries me, though, is how fast we're handing over more and more decisions to these systems, like who gets hired, who gets insurance, whose content gets boosted online, whose account gets banned. The more invisible these systems become, the easier it is for bias to slip through unnoticed. And the average person doesn't know how the algorithm works, they just see the outcome. And if a computer says no, most people assume it's correct, because we've been trained to think that machines don't lie. But machines can absolutely lie, or at least mislead, because they're trained on messy, biased, very human data. And there's another angle as well, the illusion of fairness. Sometimes companies use AI to give themselves cover. Like, look, it's not us discriminating, it's the algorithm, as if the algorithm created itself out of thin air. It's a neat trick, really. Blame the machine, stay out of trouble. But I think the thing that makes bias in AI so dangerous is that it scales. If one biased human makes a bad decision, that affects one person. If a biased algorithm makes a bad decision, it can affect millions of people instantly and consistently without even realizing it's doing anything wrong. Bias becomes automated, and then it becomes normal. And here's the worst part. Most people will never even know it's happening to them. Maybe they didn't get an interview because the AI filtered them out based on their name. Maybe their insurance quote went up because their postcode is linked to some historical pattern. Maybe their social media posts never reach anyone because the algorithm quietly deprioritized their tone or their dialect or their face. And because we can't see the invisible decisions that shape our digital lives, we just assume it's all fair. But fairness doesn't happen by accident. It's something that you have to demand, quite loudly. Again, I would love to hear what you think about this one, because it's quite a big ethical question, really. Like, do you trust AI to make decisions? Do you think machines can actually be neutral? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to know what you think. Because if we don't have these conversations now, we'll end up with systems that just make life-changing decisions without any accountability at all. And that, for me, is far more frightening than AI becoming too powerful. It's AI becoming unfair, quietly. But what about the future then? When people talk about the future of AI, the conversation tends to swing wildly between two extremes. On one side, you've got the die-hard optimists who think AI is basically the second coming of the Industrial Revolution, like a miracle tool that's going to fix everything from healthcare to loneliness. On the other side, you've got the doom and gloom crew who swear blind that AI is going to wipe out civilization, steal every job, and turn humanity into this obsolete background decoration. But the truth is, like most things, it sits somewhere in the middle of a very messy grey area. The hype around AI comes from this idea that progress will continue accelerating forever. People get caught up in the fantasy that every new model is going to be twice as clever as the last one, until eventually we have machines that can run governments and cure every illness and solve problems that we haven't even thought of yet. And yes, AI will bring breakthroughs, but technology doesn't evolve in a straight, predictable line. It tends to jump forward and then it stalls, and then it advances again. Anyone promising a flawless, frictionless future is probably selling something, really. But still, there's a sense of hope around AI too. I don't think we should dismiss that. When you strip away the hype, what you're left with is a tool that could genuinely improve people's lives. Not in a sci-fi way, not like robots walking your dog or something, but in the sense of giving people access to help and information and support and opportunities that were completely out of reach a decade ago. AI has the potential to make things easier and fairer and more accessible if we use it correctly. It can free up time, and it can help us understand each other better, and it can let people express themselves in a way they couldn't before. And I think that's why so many people feel excited, not because they expect AI to reinvent the universe, but because they hope it will give them just a bit more breathing room in their own lives. But then you hit the hard truths, and there are quite a few. It'll disrupt things, jobs, industries, institutions. It already is doing that. People like talking about the potential benefits, but not the emotional fallout. What happens to someone who's been in their profession for 20 years and suddenly realises a machine can do most of their job in 10 minutes? Or the teenager who grows up in a world where software can produce art and essays and music and conversations all at the click of a button. What does that do to motivation or self-esteem or ambition? Then you've got the speed of it all. This, for me, is one of the biggest challenges. AI moves at a pace that simply isn't human. Laws move slowly, education moves slowly, people learn slowly, but AI evolves almost overnight. One day you've got a basic chatbot, and then the next you've got a system that can write code, diagnose illnesses, analyse legal documents. And society just isn't built to keep up. We're trying to build the rules after the game's already started. But I do think there's some hope in all this, because AI might push us to redefine what makes us human. Like our empathy, our intuition, our emotional intelligence, relationships, our ability to find meaning in chaos. AI can do many things, but it can't live a life. It can't, feel the sun on its face, or miss someone, or regret something, or fall in love, or make a terrible decision, and learn from it. And that gap, that very human space in the middle, might turn out to be more valuable than we realise. So the future isn't going to be a utopia or a dystopia, I don't think. It's going to be more of a negotiation between what AI can do and what we want our lives to be. And the real question isn't whether AI will change the world, because it already has. The question is whether we manage to shape that change, or whether we can spend the next decade scrambling to keep up. And honestly, I don't know where you stand on this. Do you feel hopeful about the future? Or does the speed make you uneasy? Do you think it'll make your life better or just more complicated? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd like to read what you think. So where does this leave us all then? Because after nearly an hour of chatting about AI, the good, the bad, the brilliant, the worrying, I think the thing that sticks with me most is just how human this whole conversation is. For all the talk about algorithms and data and neural networks, at the end of the day, AI forces us to ask some very old, very human questions. What kind of world do we actually want to live in? What does it mean to learn, to work, to create? And who do we trust to shape the systems that shape our lives? AI isn't going anywhere, that much is obvious. Even if you've switched off all your devices tomorrow and moved to a cabin in the middle of nowhere, AI would still be influencing the world around you in ways you'd never notice, but you might feel. And that's why, for me, this stuff matters. Not because AI is magical or terrifying, but because it's powerful. And anything powerful needs scrutiny. It needs conversation. It needs people willing to push back and ask questions. Hang on a minute. Is this actually helping us, or are we just sleepwalking into something we don't understand? And I guess that's what I want you to take away from this episode. Not fear, not blind excitement, but kind of curiosity, healthy skepticism, a willingness to think about the role that AI plays in your life, how you use it, how it affects your work and your relationships, your creativity, and whether it empowers you or just boxes you in, or whether you're using it intentionally or whether it's using you without you even realizing. Because AI can be a tool, a brilliant one, but only if we stay awake at the wheel. Only if we decide how we want to use it rather than letting it quietly shape our habits in the background. And that's something every single one of us can do, no matter how much or how little we know about technology. So before I wrap up, I really want to hear your take on this. Do you feel excited about it, or are you worried or kind of conflicted? Do you use it every day, or do you avoid it as much as possible? Let me know in the comments. Honestly, your perspectives are always interesting, and they genuinely shape what I talk about in future episodes as well. And of course, if you'd like the full transcript and vocabulary list for this episode, you can download them in the description below, totally free. There's a lot of advanced vocabulary in this episode, idioms, phrasal verbs, so the transcript might be really helpful if you're preparing for C1 Advanced or C2 Proficiency. And if you want to take your English a bit further, or you want some help using AI properly for language learning, or you just want to have a conversation in English, you can find my private lessons and courses at www.englishclassesonline.co.uk. The link is also in the description. And that's everything from me for today. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this monster of an episode. I hope it gave you something to think about and maybe challenged you a bit, maybe made you feel a bit more confident about navigating this AI-filled world we're suddenly living in. As always, keep learning, keep questioning, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Speak to you soon.